All right, perfect. So who is running a validator or who's staking on Ethereum? One, two people, three people. Not bad. Not bad, not too bad. So proof of stake, what you're using proof of stake, right? And proof of stake is miles better than proof of work when it comes to decentralization because it gets rid of all these huge hardware infrastructure requirements that you need in order to run a proof of work operation, a mining operation. With a very, very simple hardware, you can already run a validator, and it changes this security, this cryptographic security for economic security. And the thing is, you now only need 32 ETH. So overall, we can say that proof of stake is definitely a more decentralized protocol because it allows everybody to have access to the validation, to the block production, if you already have 32 ETH. And the thing is, you don't even have to spend this 32 ETH. These 32 ETH keep being yours unless you do something shady for the protocol. That's the idea behind proof of stake. But the reality of it is that there are certain centralizing forces in proof of stake that maybe they were not, that maybe we didn't know that it was going to go in this particular way. Well, number one is economies of scale. If these three people that are running validators here, they might be running, well, they have to run an execution client, they have to run a consensus client, they have to run a validator client, and they might want to put stuff like MEV boost in order to have access to MEV opportunities as solo stakers as well. Now, once you set this up, you need a machine, you need some infrastructure to put this hardware, right? It can be a VPS, it can be even a Raspberry Pi, or people are doing it. It can be an Intel NUC, it can be whatever you want. It can be a server somewhere. But once you have set up these pieces, the execution, the consensus, and the validator client, it is negligible what you need to put one more validator on top of it. Now, solo stakers are by definition decentralized, meaning that if we put one validator in Barcelona, one validator in Denver, the other one in New York, the other one in Buenos Aires, you need a machine for each of these solo stakers. And instead, a centralized operation, somebody that can have access to thousands and thousands of ETH and can put multiple validators in one, well, you can see that there's economies of scale. They just need one machine, and they can put like a bunch of validators on top. If you have one machine, you can run thousands of validators in this same machine. In an Intel NUC, you can run thousands of validators. So economies of scale, big infrastructure companies can afford to have lower hardware cost per validator, right? That's a centralizing force because their profit, their benefit, or their bottom line will not be undercut so much by the cost of the hardware. Second centralizing force is MEV. MEV wasn't quite in the Ethereum protocol. It's something that we have had to deal over time, so we weren't so prepared for these. Hardware infrastructure costs and economies of scale, we knew that that might happen, but MEV has sort of like taken us by surprise. In the past few years, it's been proven not to be detrimental to the users that are the ones that are getting their value extracted. The extraction part of MEV comes from the user that does the transactions. So, but also it has implications on the consensus layer, on the protocol, on the validation of blocks, because it is a matter of the ordering of the transactions, right? So now, why is this a problem for solo staking? Why is this a centralizing force? Why is MEV a centralizing force? Any ideas? Okay, back there.
Yeah, so basically, since like, I guess right now, the supply chain of MEV, like, so you're basically building the block, and then like you relay it to the proposers, and effectively like the more sophisticated you are as a builder, searcher, you will be able to gain a bigger share of the whole like MEV cake, so that eventually you will see like, I don't know, centralizing force, maybe Flashbots or other like searcher companies become like a few biggest players, and like normal like small MEV players won't be able to get a share, and that will affect the consensus level because like they're basically controlling the block building and proposing.
100%. That's absolutely correct. The fact that sophisticated actors have access to cross-chain or cross-domain MEV and all this sort of stuff makes that they accumulate disproportionate amount of rewards. But that's not quite. That doesn't quite affect. This is the person that ends up receiving these MEV or on the side of the searchers or the block builders, right? But not so much on the validation side. On the solo staker side, the problem is that forgive me. On the validator side, the problem is not so much in here, but the problem is the fact that they produce around 6 blocks a year. You produce, on average, a block every 63 days, right? So if you are a solo staker, even if you use things like MEV Boost and you have access to the MEV opportunities that the sophisticated block builders, as Jan was saying, the sophisticated block builders, even if you have access to these opportunities, it is very rare that within 6 blocks that you produce a year on average, one of them is going to be what we call a lottery block, a block that has a high MEV reward. So very likely what will happen if you're a solo staker is that in these 6 blocks that you produce, you'll get like 0.01 ETH on average, which is not great. It's not a fantastic thing. But if you have a huge amount of validators and you keep producing blocks on a regular basis, on a daily basis, several ones even on a daily basis, this long tail probability of getting a lottery block starts being a lot more likely, right? So basically, if you are an operator that operates 1,000 validators, it is very likely that in 1 year, you are going to have one of these lottery blocks. And then you can spread the extra ETH that this lottery block has produced among all of your validators. You're effectively acting as a pool, as an MEV pool, and all of the validators that are part of your centralized enterprise will have a higher revenue than a solo staker. Okay, so proof of stake, in theory, extremely decentralized. That's perfect. Everybody can access. Users only need 32 ETH. But the reality of it is that this is not happening so much. So now decentralization, solo staking. This is the golden standard of decentralization, and it's good. It's good for the network. It's good for Ethereum because it keeps nodes validating in a difference of political jurisdiction, so people cannot crack down on it, on different hardware. So you're not vulnerable to one type of hardware failure, different ISPs, different geographical locations. You're more resilient overall. For Ethereum, it's really good to have plenty of solo stakers around. So we want the solo stakers because they are the gold standard of decentralization. Now, there is a problem with solo staking, and it's the fact that it costs around 50K to run one. So it is very hard to scale, right? It is very hard to have 50Ks. If you want to run 2 validators, what we were talking about, the economies of scale of running this hardware, I mean, we want that to happen. We want solo stakers to have it. We want a lot of decentralized validators happening, but it's very expensive for the user. So how do we try to combat this? So LSDs, and spoiler alert, we're in an LSD conference, LSDs bring something that's called economic accessibility, right? And we're going to try to make it a lot easier and a lot cheaper for solo stakers to run validators or to distribute validators all over the place. Bringing solo stakers at par with big infrastructure actors. We need to do that. How do we do that? With a solo staking smoothing pool. This is what we're doing at Dappnode. Dappnode, so maybe a good moment to introduce Dappnode. Dappnode is free open source software that allows people to run validators or run any type of nodes without any technical knowledge. You basically install Dappnode in a machine that you might already have, or you can buy a plug-and-play machine that comes pre-installed. And then with a point and click, you can start running validators. You're like, hey, I want this execution client, I want this consensus client. And this is how we make it. This is how Dappnode is a project for technological accessibility. But now, okay, how do we bring, like, this is really bad when we started realizing that MEV was creating these imbalances between the rewards of pools and centralized actors and solo stakers. We were like, okay, how do we bring solo stakers at par with the big centralizing entities? And we are building a solo staker smoothing pool. And this smoothing pool, basically what it does is you take all these solo stakers and you make them commit to bring their MEV rewards into a pool. And whatever we put into this pool is going to be distributed at equal parts among all the participants of the MEV smoothing pool. So you can see that this is what we have done, is instead we have access not to 6 blocks, not to the MEV rewards of 6 blocks a year on average, but we might have access to several blocks a day if we are participating on this MEV smoothing pool. A solo staker all of a sudden is smoothing out their MEV rewards among all the people that participate into this pool. So if we make the mathematical modeling of how much more can we earn if we participate in something like this. So as a solo staker, you get up to an 80% more rewards coming from this. And this is obviously in a limited time period of 5 years, because on an infinite time scale, every solo staker would end up proposing a lottery block, but we don't have infinite time in this world. So if we take a time frame of 5 years, you get approximately an 80% more reward by participating into a smoothing pool than not participating into a smoothing pool. There's obviously this one guy that joins the smoothing pool today, and tomorrow his validator proposes a block with 100 ETH MEV reward, and he gives it all to the smoothing pool. So there's going to be this one guy that's going to regret joining the smoothing pool, but the thing is, you cannot know if you're going to be this guy. So you're a lot better off by participating into the smoothing pool than not doing it, right? So okay, solo stakers, we put them at par with big infrastructure providers by making them join a smoothing pool. And that's what we're going to do at Dappnode. And we were supposed to present it here, but it's in testnet and it's breaking. So stay tuned for this. Now, the second way to combat it, which was not MEV, is the economies of scale on running the infrastructure, right? We have every solo staker running an execution client, a consensus client, and a validator, plus all of the accessory software like MEV Boost, or maybe a Web3 signer, or whatever they want. So how do we leverage this already existing hardware in order to put more validators? We want solo stakers, which are the golden standard of decentralization, right? They are all over the place. They might be like at a small village in the outback of Australia, or they might be in some place in Africa, you name it. We want to put more validators in there and get them out of AWS, get them out of Google Cloud, get them out of OVH, get them out of Hetzner. By the way, if you still have validators in Hetzner, get them out now, because they're going to shut you down. And they could do the same on the others, but they won't. So we want to put all of these validators into places that already that are decentralized. And this golden standard of decentralization, this hardware that is running at people's homes. And how do we do this? We do this with liquid staking derivative. I'm not going to explain what liquid staking derivatives is, because that's what we've been doing here the entire day, and that's what we'll keep doing, right? But on a very, very basic level, what we do is we create a way that people can postulate to be node operators for an LSD. Can somebody say what an LSD is? Just to make sure that we're on the same page. Yeah, LSD? Not the drug, again. Nobody? No? Liquid staking derivative network? Yeah?
Liquid staking derivatives. Yeah, Lego staking derivatives.
Yes, exactly. And how do they work? It's basically Lido, right? You create a pool where people can deposit their ETH, and then we take this and we give you a representation of this ETH that you have put into the pool. That's the derivative part of it. And then we take this ETH that we have pooled, and we put them into some hardware, and we start validating. We start doing the validation work. And then the representation that we have, the derivative that we have, accrues value as the balance of ETH that we have staked in actual validators increases. Okay, so far so good. We're yeah? Can I hear yeah? Can I hear a no? Explain it again. Who runs the hardware? Excellent idea. So in Lido, there's 29 validators. Maybe they have more right now. It was 29 not that long ago. But solo stakers don't have access to these, right? But with some other version 2 liquid staking derivatives like Stakehouse, we can have some tokenomic models that allow us to give these key stores, the validators, we allow us to deposit this 32 ETH into validators that are running in the centralized hardware in solo stakers. So solo stakers, all of a sudden, they can leverage their hardware that they're already running, who was running a validator around here? Yep, so if you're running a consensus layer, an execution layer, all of a sudden you can start putting more validators in there. You can start leveraging the hardware that you're already running. You can put up to thousands of validators that could be coming to you from an LSD like Stakehouse, or one of the Stakehouses that we can build. Okay, so you can start receiving this and get your share of your fee for operating this node without the possibility of you cheating. You would have to put a bond. You'd have to put 4 ETH if you're using it. If you're using a Stakehouse, but instead of 32 ETH per each increment, you only need 4, which is kind of nice, right?
Question: can they increase the hardware within 5 years? 5 years, right? Because the contract or agreement for 5 years.
The contract. Well, what do you mean the contract?
The agreement for staying in a pool for 5 years, for example.
Right. So you can exit the MEV smoothing pool at any point that you want. You just need to say, hey, I'm going to exit. So the next time I'm going to keep the rewards for me, and then you're going to start accumulating rewards from the pool. But right. Yes. So on the MEV smoothing pool, yeah. Yes, exactly. Or at least you need to have a mechanism where you can announce in advance that you are going to be leaving the pool.
Yeah, I leave the pool and take the money and run.
Yes, exactly. So on the smoothing pool, the way that we solve this is you accumulate rewards but you cannot withdraw them up until the point that you actually propose a block and you're giving this money to the pool.
Some kind of contract, right?
Yes, exactly. That is a contract. That is a smart contract. So on the LSD network, there's another way that we could even make more resilient for solo stakers. And solo stakers are maybe not. So solo stakers are mostly fine, but some people might be kind of reluctant to trust solo stakers to validate their ETH because maybe their operation is not so professionalized, and maybe they don't have enough uptime, or they're vulnerable to the power going off, or the internet going off, or big storm and the cables go down, or something like that. So here enters another technology, DVT, distributed validator technology, that allows us to break one of these validator keys that we would put otherwise into one solo staker, into one hardware in some people's homes, break this into 4 pieces or whatever pieces, and create some sort of a validator multisig. In this case, as we break this validator multisig, we put one validator into 3 or 4 solo stakers' house, so the centralized nodes, and we only need 3 out of these 4 to sign. So most of the time, the 4 of them will be online, but if one of them gets offline at some point, nothing really happens. We're still validating, and this validator has the permanently online, and it's a lot more resilient than doing something like this. So combine LSD networks. LSD networks allow us to put validators into solo stakers' houses, ushering all of this wave of resilience for networks, ushering this wave for decentralization, for getting nodes out there that are outside of the big infrastructure providers. And DVT puts us as par as data centers, as big data centers, at par when it comes to performance, when it comes to being online. So we're starting to see that we have, we're going to have the tools in 2023 in order to usher this new era of decentralization, bringing decentralization back into the forefront. And that's good for Ethereum, but that's especially good for you as solo stakers if you are running if you're running a node. Because I've been going on the assumption that you would be really happy if you're running a node like you, but if you're not running a node because you don't have 32 ETH or because you don't want to put 32 ETH, now you can start running one. And you don't even need 32 ETH. You just need to put the bond like this 4 ETH in case you're doing a Stakehouse or whatever the LSD protocol that you're going to be using. We can talk about those later. But now all of a sudden, you are incentivized as a normal person without 32 ETH that do not want to put 32 ETH at risk. You can start running infrastructure right now, and it'll be performing at a level and earning at a level that is equal to the big staking providers. So not much of a problem that Kraken is shutting down the services in the US. Where are we going to put all of these validators? We can put them in people's homes. We can put them in people's homes thanks to LSD Networks and DVT. So let's get nodes everywhere, incentivized by actually making money and decentralized. Thank you very much, guys. Any questions?
I have a question. So the 4th ETH, you have to put it once for whole time, or every month, every 3 months? How that works?
You would need to put 4 ETH per every validator that you want to run, and this is sort of protection because when you actually get the validator key, the key store, you could double sign with this, and you could cause a slashing on this validator. And this validator, you are operating it as the node operator, but the ETH is not really yours. The ETH is from the people that have deposited into the LSD network, right? So in order for the people that deposit into this LSD network to have some sort of security that you're going to run this and not run with it or not slash it, you need to put this 4 ETH bond.
Every single time.
Exactly, every single time that you want to run a validator. But you put 4 and you can be running this validator for years and with only 4 ETH. No probs, thanks to you. How are we on time? All right.
So how would the hardware looks like at home if we were solo staking at home? What's the hardware would be like?
So you can run basically like you can run it in a Raspberry Pi if you want. I do not recommend it. So what we're selling, by the way, Dappnode is free open source software. It is completely free. Install it in your machine right now. But we do sell pre-installed hardware machines that allow you to do all of this without any technical knowledge, right? And what we're selling is this. It's basically an Intel NUC. And the minimum requirements that you might need are 16 gigabytes of RAM, recommended 32, 2 terabytes of NVMe disk. SSD will work as well, but NVMe is just so much faster. And if you have any problems with syncing, you'll be able to sync so much faster with an NVMe disk. The recovery time is so much faster. So 2 terabytes of disk, 16 RAM, recommended 32, and the CPU doesn't really matter. Like a Celeron will do, like the most basic one. No, and now you're like, if the requirements are so cheap and so not if they're not so high, why are you selling such expensive machines? And the reason is because I don't want you to buy my machine. I want you to run it yourself. I want you to do it, to use my software, free open source software, install it in your machine. But if you buy it from me, I need to make sure that you have the best quality. I don't want to be doing support the entire day, like, oh, my machine broke or this broke. And like, we used to sell cheaper machines before. We stopped because the support is like, if you use some cheaper stuff, like it breaks, and this doesn't break. So that's why we're using this.
Hi, thanks. I was just asking about that Hopper node because I watched the Hopper launch a couple days ago. Their RPCH product looked really interesting. That's just hardware only?
Yeah, so we have a partnership with Hopper, and what they're doing, if you buy this, so they want to make sure that people can run their nodes, right? Like, in order to create a decentralized, a credibly decentralized network for Hopper, you need to make sure that you have lots of people running those nodes. And to make it stupidly easy, we sell these machines. They partner with us to sell these machines that come with the Hopper node pre-installed as well. No, we don't. These machines are at your own house. Like, you'll buy this machine, you plug this into your router, and you start running it at home. These are solo staking machines or completely self-sovereign. Another thing that we do is we have absolutely no telemetry. We have no idea who runs this, and that's why I recommend you, we will have your address if we send this to you. But if you install the software from GitHub, we have no idea where you're running this. We have no telemetry. We have no idea how many dApp nodes are out there, which is the question number one that I have speaking with every VC, and it's also the question number over conversation that I have with every VC, because we don't know how many dApp nodes are there, and this is by design.
I'm just wondering how long they last, is the working life is, and also question is where do you manufacture them or who manufacture them?
So the life would be, so they're under warranty for 1 year. And so different pieces, right? Like the warranty, like the NVMe disks have, depending on the disk, they have 1 or 2 years, mostly 1 year. They're finicky machines, and after, like, so before they used to offer 2 years, but do you remember this cryptocurrency Chia that was mined by writing inputs and outputs in NVMe disks? So they basically burned the NVMe disks that they use burned in 4 months. So so then the manufacturers were like, whoa, okay, you're really putting pressure, and they lowered the warranty to 1 year mostly. But so yeah, warranty 1 year. Their expected life for running a validator, 3 to 4 years. There's people who bought a Dappnode a very long time ago, one of the first that we sold in 2019, and they're still using it. They probably took very good care of it, and they probably had to upgrade the NVMe disk as well to put more space, because before we didn't sell them with such big disks. But yeah, if you take good care of it, it can last easily 4 years. What was the last question? It was a warranty, expected lifetime. Yes, yeah, they're completely expandable. Oh, and we manufacture them in Spain. We actually don't manufacture them in Spain. We assemble them in Spain, because those are Intel NUCs. Those are normal Intel NUCs, and this is what I would recommend you to do if you can do it yourself and if you want to have like some hardware time. Just buy an Intel NUC, build it yourself, and install Dappnode on it, and that's gonna be working just fine. It's around an average of 25 watts per 24 watts that they will pull from the wall. So in electricity, I'm not per hour, right? Yeah, that's how it works. It's what's hour, right? That's how you measure it. Yeah, that's how you measure electricity. He knows. Perfect.
I've set up an Intel NUC running Windows, and you're saying I just installed Dappnode on top of it.
No, Dappnode is based on Debian, so you'll have to nuke Windows out of it. But yeah, it'll be simpler with Dappnode, honestly, because it's basically like has a point and click interface that you can. If we had my laptop there, I could show you how it looks, but yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work.
So there's a project Lido, right? Like we know everyone. So this is just running at the node on your home for yourself. So we just, well, instead of mining, you're just running the node on your own, right? So what is, for me, like when I say like what's the best benefit, like I'm just running myself. I have, let's say I have a 4 liter, I can just put up the Lido and get the reward. But like it's just running for myself, like for my electricity or my time. What's the benefit out of it? Like, well, exactly.
That's a really good question. Do you use Ethereum? Do you use Ethereum? Like, do you swap tokens? Do you own? Do you have some part of your net worth, small as it is, maybe like $1,000, is in Ethereum, right? So you can earn money by putting this into Lido, by putting this ETH into Lido. But we need, and that's great. You're going to get great rewards. But there might be something to be aware of. If Lido accumulates a big number of validators, a big number of the validation power, we might have problems considering Ethereum a decentralized network. We might have problems with people targeting Lido or like regulations. Imagine that, so for example, Kraken has been forced to abandon its staking operations. There's a risk of having one solution for all, right? And the decentralization is important because it makes Ethereum a lot more resilient. And so for you individually, you obviously need to be motivated to run a solo staker for yourself, but you can actually make money out of it. So maybe that's motivation enough for you. But there's always if you want to run your own hardware, it's obviously a lot more involved than just putting it into a staking pool, putting it into Kraken. And this involvement, what you need to counteract this involvement is some sort of interest on decentralization.
I got your point. So if I just running myself, like for that, is that like, expandable? Like what I meant is, let's say like you got you're just into it, and then you just focus on it, and then you just try to analyze all the logs. But you know, like how much log they making, right? Every time when they stack up data, it goes a little bit higher, and 2 terabyte, I don't think that's enough for once you just keep it on.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like how resilient, how expandable, how is it? Well, so there's 2 things that are going to happen very soon in Ethereum right now. We're going into including data blobs in as part of the storage, and these data blobs will not be permanent. They will last for 2 weeks, and it's an increase of around. If they're full, there'll be around 200 gigabytes extra on top of it, right? But it's going to be. That's it. But that's not going to grow more, 200 gigabytes more. But then we have the normal state that is coming, and this will keep growing, right? So we're counting on developments like the ones that the Aragon team are doing in order to lower the requirements of the main Ethereum database. There are many things. It's not going to grow. I wouldn't be too concerned on a 5-year time. I think with 2 terabytes, if you want 4 terabytes, honestly, I don't think it's never going to grow over 4 terabytes. You'll always be able to run a validator with 4 terabytes. Because there are going to be new measures. There are going to be new ways of structuring the database. People are already working on that. There are going to be new solutions that will reduce the size of state, and especially light clients. Light clients will be able to validate as well. Like state sync, yeah. So yes, the state sync does enable light clients. So yeah, correct. Okay, so all right. Last question over there. I'm hungry as well, guys.
How many ETH nodes could you run on one of those bits of hardware?
How many ETH nodes? 1. Why would you run 2 in the same hardware? You can run 1,000 validators, but you only need 1 execution client, 1 consensus client. Yeah, validators, so yeah, like 1,000 validators. On Gnosis chain is actually faster, so the requirements are a little bit higher when it comes to the validation work. And I know of people that are running 1,300 validators in one machine, and the machine's not even breaking a sweat. The bandwidth that you need, because the block time is faster in Gnosis Chain, you need actually less bandwidth on Ethereum, so you would be able to put more. Like the requirement is more on the disk than it is on the capacity, the computing power. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I hope that was interesting for you. And if you have any questions, I'll be around stuffing my mouth with this delicious food, which I recommend you do the same.